Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about a question that comes up all the time when I meet someone new and they ask, so what do you do for work? When I answer solution architect, the next question is almost always, what does that mean? So today we're going to answer that question. What does a solution architect actually do? The first challenge is, how do we define architecture in the virtual world? One of my favorite quotes on this comes from Martin Fowler's paper, Who Needs an Architect? In it, he references Ralph Johnson, who said that architecture is the important stuff, whatever that is. I love that definition because it cuts through the noise. Architecture isn't everything, but it's the parts that matter the most. An architect in the real world has a pretty clear job description. Design a physical structure based on the client's needs that meets all of the required standards and regulations. They have to take in the needs of the clients who know what they want, but don't know how to explain it to the builders, and make sure that the intent behind the requirements is met by the resulting structure without it falling down a year later. That's actually not far off what happens in technology projects. In the physical world, a building architect designs walls, plumbing, and wiring to create something safe and functional. In the digital world, a solution architect designs systems, integrations, and data flows to create something scalable, secure, and usable. So if we accept that solution architecture is about designing the best system for a client based on their needs and constraints, then the next question is, how do we communicate that design? What do architects actually make? I think Dr. David Knott, former chief architect at HSBC, summed it up best. Architects make two things that are of vital importance and in short supply. They make sense and they make decisions. For me, a solid solution architecture usually includes three things. Clear design principles, the guardrails for how we'll build something. A record of key design decisions, what we chose, why, and the trade-offs we made at the time. And diagrams, models that describe the system at different levels of detail, from the big picture to the nuts and bolts. Those artifacts, the principles, the decisions, and the diagrams, are how architects make sense of complexity and help others to do the same. That's what turns an idea into something that can actually be built. Let's start with the first one, architecture principles. Principles are like the guardrails of a design. They're not detailed rules or standards. They're the big ideas that shape how we make decisions. If you think of a building architect, one of their principles might be natural light wherever possible. It doesn't tell the builders how to achieve it, but ensures every decision from window placement to materials supports that goal. In solution architecture, principles serve the same purpose. They capture the intent behind how we design and deliver systems. For example, cloud first, unless there's a clear reason not to. Data should only be stored once and shared via APIs. User experience is part of the system, not an afterthought. Security is everyone's business. These principles help keep everyone aligned, developers, designers, project managers, and stakeholders, even when the details change. Because let's be honest, projects always change, but when your principles are clear, your direction stays consistent. They're what'll stop you from building a Frankenstein system that technically works, but makes no sense. Principles define how we think, not just what we build. The second key part of any solution architecture is decisions, and this is where a lot of the real architectural value lives. Principles give us direction, but decisions record how we navigated the trade-offs along the way. Every significant design involves compromise, performance versus cost, speed versus maintainability, flexibility versus simplicity. Architecture is ultimately the art of choosing which problems you're willing to live with. That's where architecture decision records, or ADRs, come in. An ADR is a short, structured document that captures a single design choice. What was decided, who made that decision, why the decision was made, and what alternatives were considered. It's not meant to be a novel, usually just a page or two, but it becomes part of the system's living history. For example, ADR 001, use AWS S3 for document storage instead of on-prem file shares. Context, we need a scalable, low-maintenance solution for storing customer uploads. Decision, use S3 with lifecycle policies for cost control. Consequences, reduced maintenance but adds dependency on AWS IAM and S3 costs. That's it, concise, factual, and transparent. The power of ADRs is that they prevent decision-making from getting lost in emails, meetings, or tribal knowledge. They let future teams understand why something was done, even years later, and whether the reasoning still holds. Without them, you end up with systems full of mysteries. People afraid to change anything because nobody remembers why it's like that. So if principles are our guardrails, ADRs are the breadcrumbs. They show how we got from intent to implementation. The third major piece of any solution architecture is diagrams, the models that bring the system to life visually. This is where we move from ideas and decisions to something tangible that everyone can understand. Because if principles guide us and decisions document our reasoning, then diagrams make it visible. The challenge, though, is that most system diagrams fall into one of two traps. They're either too abstract, so high level they don't actually help anyone build, or they're too detailed, like a wiring diagram nobody outside the dev team can read. That's why I like to use the C4 model created by Simon Brown. C4 stands for context, containers, components, and code, and it's designed to show a system at multiple levels of abstraction, each layer answering a different question. The context diagram shows where the system fits, who uses it, which systems it connects to. The container diagram breaks down the major building blocks, web apps, APIs, databases, and how they talk to each other. The component view zooms in on one of those containers and shows how it's structured internally. And the code view goes right down to the implementation level where it's relevant. What I like about C4 is that it's consistent and communicative. It helps me talk to both business stakeholders and technical teams using the same set of diagrams, just at different zoom levels. It also connects beautifully back to those earlier ideas, making sense and making decisions. Because when you model a system this way, you're not just drawing boxes and arrows, you're creating a shared understanding of how everything fits together, and that's the heart of good architecture. In the end, principles, decisions, and diagrams all work together. The principles give us direction, the decisions give us justification, and the diagrams give us clarity. And that's what good architects can do, make sense of complexity and help everyone else see it too. So that's my take on what a solution architect really does, making sense, making decisions, and turning those ideas into designs people can actually use. If you found this useful, I'd love to hear your perspective. How do you define architecture in your world? Drop a comment below and subscribe to the channel. I think these conversations help all of us get better at what we do. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.